Scraps, and today I'm going to share the method I use to take the purchased BX fonts, the applique style, to my digital cutters, and specifically my Cricut Explorer Air 2, and this can be done with a Cricut Explorer, or my Silhouette Cameo 3 or Cameo 2, whichever you happen to have. It's really not that hard. It just takes a little bit of understanding where to go, what button to push, and how to save it. That said, I'm going to install, just as a review, a BX font into my Embrilliance software. I purchase my fonts anywhere I find the ones I like. I happen to go most frequently to Jolson's because they often have bulk sales on their fonts and they do stitch out quite nicely. I went looking for an applique font in particular for this video, and I found a really nice one called Tuscan. I downloaded it to my download folder, which is where everything that comes off the internet goes, and you can see it here in its folder form. 572 happens to be the catalog number for this particular font at Jolson's. It is the Tuscan split font. I've got two styles that I downloaded, the BX and the Jeff. I think I paid $1 for it on sale. So here I'm going to open my folder, and I can't bring the folder itself into my software, but I can bring all of the BX sizes that I choose into my Embrilliance software. So I'm going to highlight those files. Now remember, JD, let me just back up in the naming, that's the nomenclature for Jolson's. 572 again is the catalog number, and then I have the sizes. So I can take this font in anywhere from 3" to 8", and it will appear in my list of fonts as 572 3", 572 4", etc. Let's install it. I select them all, left mouse click hold, drag, and drop. And let me move this down. It said files installed. 3" has been installed, and I'll get one of these little windows for every single size. And it's done. That's simple. In order to open that font, and you can see I haven't gone to my digitizing, I'm just in my create, in pretty much the edit form of this whole suite of software. I am going to go to my blue letter A, which is the BX fonts lettering. And the default font that comes in is the block. It just happens every time. It always comes in as ABC. I'm going to move to the right-hand side of my screen, underneath my Objects panel, down at the very bottom, and I'm going to scroll on my up-down menu, click on it, the arrows, and there it is, JD 572, 3, 4, 5, etc. I'm going to select the 5" for this particular project. I click it, and remember, ABC comes in simply as the default. In order to change that, I'm going to go into the text box, highlight the ABC, and I'm going to type the letter I choose, which in my case today is going to be an N. I want it centered. I don't want a slant. I don't need to change anything for this particular font. Now, it is important once I have it set, or once I have it typed, to click Set, because that's what actually sets that particular font on your workspace. I'll grab the green center box right there and bring it down so you can see it, and I have my letter typed onto my screen. I'm going to click off of it, and right now it simply looks like a bunch of satin outlines. This is going to be used to fill in with a name, or in my case Nona, and I could do that very easily without having this selected. I go back to my fonts and I simply choose a font that I like. I think something kind of blocky would look good there, and I'm going to go up, 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 and I can tell you a running stitch up. Nah, how about the block? I like Bauhaus. And this is about a 1" space. So I'm going to double check on that. I'm going to type Nonna, N-N-A, and put set. And I'm going to go back because I just messed it up. Select it all. Let me see. It's kind of hard to see on this one. Grab it and bring it into the center. Now I have my split letter. What I need to do in the next step is I actually need to identify the parts of this particular font, the Applique font. So I'm going to, you see on the right hand, I'm going to first look at the colors. And I've got a black, a blue, I've got currently five different colors, with that last color being the word I typed in at the very end. I'm going to go to the needle, or my sewing simulator. Yeah, okay. And up here I have my 5 colors. I'm going to slow it down just a titch so you can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to click the play, just like on any VCR, etc. And first it stitches the position. Now it stitches out the holding. Now it's going to stitch out the, after the holding, it will stitch out the satin stitch, and that will finish up my applique. So I'm going to stop it right there, because the color we're going to be working with at this next step is going to be the black. If I select the black, now remember this is the applique positioning stitch. Right now it doesn't tell me a whole lot. And if you've used Embrilliance, you know they have a nice little feature where you can simulate when you actually create your own applique, you can simulate the fabric. We're going to move into the applique features of this software. So I click on black, and just a single click, and I get a different window, and it says color and applique. The applique is highlighted. That means it is the functioning part of this window. If I look at style, it says not applique. When you purchase these fonts, they are created for a multitude of machines, and a multitude of softwares that people will use to bring them to their machines. So what you need to do is, at this point, if you want to use your digital cutter, you have to change this to the applique position stitch. So I click on the down menu, select applique position. Now I can specify simulated fabric, single image, tiled image. Let's go with simulated. And let me move this out of the way. The back behind my satin stitch turns black. That's because it was a black color over here. But what that does is that shows me that's where my fabric is going to be positioned. Now I want you to look at the cutting area. If you look at this cutting area, you're going to say inflates 1.5 millimeters. I'm going to leave that. It's about right. And I'm going to select save. Another window opens. Look at the top where it says Save As, letters SVG. SVG is the cutting file that you will be using to cut your fabric, to place in the positioning lines, tack down, and then stitch with the satin stitch. At 1.5 millimeters, that allows this to be a little bit larger than those outlines so that you can have a good hold on your stitch. I'm going to change the name of this, and I'm going to put Applique in SVG. It's going to save it where I designate it, which is my embroidery designs, and I'm going to select save. And that's really how I'm going to create my cutting file for this applique. Now, how you send it to your machine is going to be up to what machine you're going to use. First, I'm going to talk about sending it to my Cricut Explorer. And I also want to point out that this is quite helpful in double checking. If I select my applique and I look over in the sizing block, it says that it is 5 inches high. That's very, very, very important. And 5 inches high, I'm going to write that down because it becomes very crucial when bringing it into my Cricut. So remember, it's 5 inches high. The 4 3/4 inches wide is not so much necessary because remember we've got the two straight lines that are done in red on this screen. So what I really want is the height of my applique, the height of my SVG file. And that said, I'm going to show you the two different softwares and how I verify that they are correct and what to do with them in those machines. And you're going to see the file already there because I've uploaded it once trying it. And I get a separate screen and I will go and select this part of my upload. So upload image. Now it's going to browse, and in browsing I'm going to go to the same file where I put my SVG file. I saved it, and I'm going to select my Applique N, and I'm going to choose the file. So now it's an SVG file. I can tag it whatever I want. I'm going to put fabric just so I know, and I'm going to save it. It brings it onto this screen again, and I'm now going to select it. Because it's uploaded, it means it's in the cloud, but now I need to bring it into Design Space so that I can send it to my Cricut and work. I'm going to insert my image, and holy cramoly, look at how big that is. This is the one problem that I have with my Cricut Design Space, and I really do like my Cricut. I love the machine itself. This is a problem, but it's not insurmountable. In fact, it's very easy. Remember, we measured our letter, and it was a 5-inch letter. When you go to the Layers menu on the right-hand edge of Design Space, okay, it says there's a width and a height. The height that we measured was 5 inches. Ensure before you do anything that the little lock is closed, because this means that it will be sized proportionately with the lock closed. We don't want to mess with the width at this point. We don't have our red lines in here. We're just cutting the letter N. So I'm going to go to my height, and I'm going to type in 5 inches and press enter on my keyboard. And you can see that the end automatically snaps down, and if I size it, it is exactly the right size to be cut on my machine. Now, a hint when I send this to my machine, because it has the specialty dial, I usually use, and I'll do this for all of my appliques, Heat and Bond Light. I will follow all of the directions on the Heat and Bond packaging. I will leave it on the paper. I will use a sticky mat, a new mat, or on my Cricut, it's the extra hold mat, and I will use the fabric setting on the Smart Set dial. It cuts perfectly. I have never had a problem cutting like that. And then I simply put my cut fabric inside of my applique positioning lines, and I'm good to go. And that's the Cricut software. Let's move on to the Silhouette software. Okay, so I've opened my Silhouette Design Space Studio, or whatever it's called, Silhouette Studio Designer, and I am going to bring in an SVG image. I do believe, and it's been so long that I've had this software I couldn't tell you, but I do believe if you have the free software that you cannot bring in SVG images, that you have to upgrade to the Designer Studio. I would check out Silhouette America's website just to ensure that that is indeed correct. So I bring in my file, I'm sorry, wrong one, go to Silhouette Studio, File, and I'm going to open a file. And again, I navigate to where my file was saved, which is the Applique N, and I'm going to select OK. And in the Silhouette Studio, it brings it in at 4.95, which is very close to what it needs to be. So I bring it in, and it's good to go like this. All I have to do is when I'm preparing my settings, I will take and I will set on my cut conditions under commonly used. I will scroll down and I will find, let me see, I will find the fabric setting, and this will take a little bit of experience, so I would definitely not cut the good one first. Make sure my cut edge is red, and then send it to my silhouette machine. If you need more information on how to cut fabric, I would suggest checking YouTube and simply search cutting fabric on a silhouette. That said, now you have a couple different ways to cut your fabric. Enjoy and love your software. Until next time, bye.